Hi Rohit.
Hello.
Hi, so I've got Rohit Bassi with us today. So it's such a pleasure that I've been able to speak to a lot of people who are a master in their fields, and you're known as a communications wizard. So that's why I really want to, get some information and also some takeaway tips on how to be a better communicator and how that actually impacts our health, which is the main topic of today, but also all the different areas of our life that we've been speaking about. So hopefully people come away from today with some more ideas about how to thrive.
Great.
So you're the man.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for allowing me to be here. Looking forward for me to answer your questions the best I can.
Okay, brilliant. All right. Well, I'm going to hit you with probably a big question to start with. The first question is actually based on something interesting I read on your LinkedIn profile. So you have a similar concept to me in mind about how communication is also interlinked with all the different parts of our life. So if you allow me to read the quote, you said, when communication is not mindful, you sabotage your work, your business, your relationships. And this is kind of my understanding of health. So I really want you to explain that for the listeners and for me as well.
Okay, fair enough. So let's look at communication first.
Yeah.
What you and I are doing at the moment is communication. Some sort of communication. A message is being sent, a message has been received, there might be some distortion in the middle, and I take in the message and I respond. Now, when I take in the message, there's a perception I have of the message as well.
Yeah.
And that perception of message has built up through my conditioning from the moment I was in my mother's womb. And that perception keeps on evolving and developing. So what people define as also beliefs.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say programming, I'm going to use the word conditioning because we have the ability to recondition ourselves. Programming is somewhat different. Once you're programmed, that's it. So even when you look at software, it's upgraded, and after a certain time, you cannot upgrade it anymore. With communication, you can upgrade it infinite times. And that's why I prefer calling it conditioning. So we are doing some kind of communication. And communication is happening within my thoughts as well, within my body as well. And the same is happening with you at this moment in time, where communication is happening here, within your body as well. And anyone who's listening to us, there is communication happening in terms of their thoughts, in terms of their body. They might be saying, oh, this is really great. This is a great conversation. Or they might be saying, oh my God, not another two people who want to talk about stuff. So different, and this could be so many possibilities which are happening over there. My role and your role at this moment in time is to be in the present moment. So mindfulness is saying, remember to be in this present moment. There is no future, there is no past. This is the only moment you have. And so when you are in this moment, you're able to communicate in a better way, in a stronger way, in a bolder way. So literally that's what I would say is communication, being mindful of your communication. Now that's just one part of it. Let's look a little bit deeper as well. You started a conversation with me and you want certain responses from me. Now those responses may not be something you want to listen to, or they're not something you thought you would hear, but you still want to hear some kind of response. I could have just stood here and just sit here and said nothing, which is not being mindful towards you.
Yeah, and this is obviously, as a communicator, you want to share, so this is not you.
Yeah, so mindfulness is just not a matter of being present in that moment. It's also giving that due respect to the person you are communicating or the people you're communicating with. Now, we communicate on a regular basis with ourselves as well.
Yeah.
So often communication is spoken about what's happening outside. But when you start looking at communication, being mindful about it, it's starting with what's happening with you in the first place. I could be all alone over here and I could be so engrossed in my thoughts, and those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions could be unwholesome. You're from a health background. You understand what wholesome is and unwholesome. Unwholesome does not achieve great things for you. But when you move towards wholesome, it starts improving your health. The same goes with mindfulness. Mindfulness is saying, look at being wholesome with your thoughts, with your emotions, the way you interact with yourself. Be wholesome. And when you're wholesome, you're more aware of your environment. You're able to take care of yourself much better. And you're able to achieve things which you were not able to achieve. Because you start seeing things from a much more open perspective, rather a very narrow view.
So when you say wholesome, you mean being more aware of how you're feeling while you're communicating, for example?
Absolutely right. Yeah. Absolutely right. So let's say you're having a conversation with your father and you're not in a good mood because someone has said something to you. Yeah. And because you're in that unwholesome emotion or feeling, you may lash out at your father, which you never really meant to do that.
Yeah, it's not intended for that person.
Yes, it was not meant.
Exactly,
so it's basically saying, be mindful of what's happening because it's not required. That person doesn't deserve it. And what do we do most of the time? When we are upset at someone, we're not able to communicate our message to them, we take it out on someone else. That is not being mindful. That is not being wholesome. So that's what the whole thing, and this is what starts impacting our health as well. How we communicate in our thoughts, our feelings actually impact our actions. Now, people go through a lot of challenging situations. I would like to use the word suffering over here for a simple reason is challenging could be in terms of I've got a problem. Challenging could be I actually have a physical ailment. Or challenging could be in terms of just my thoughts are not in the right place. So this is all some format of suffering. Okay, now that suffering could be very little or could be really quite a lot. And what mindfulness communication says to you is you are not the only one who's suffering. There are other people out there as well who suffer. Okay, but when you are in a state of mindfulness, what happens is you realize when you're communicating with another person and if they are lashing out at you or misbehaving with you through their communication, you realize there is some kind of suffering happening in them and there's no point getting aggressive with them. It doesn't reach anywhere. So mindfulness is always about harmony, peace, and compassion. So that's the whole purpose of mindful communication.
Yeah, that's great because it also links into a lot of things that we try and do for our health. For example, stillness and taking time to actually reflect and obviously to build relationships we've been touching on as well. So this is all really, really important information.
And so, I mean, when we look at it, so you're a master at your game. And one of the things which I notice about a lot of people saying is get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone. Yeah. And I personally am not a believer of that philosophy.
I was going to ask you about that as well. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah. So Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways, it's a book by Dr. Susan Jeffers. Yeah. And that's where I really understood when it meant about, it's not about getting out your comfort zone. It's about expanding your comfort zone.
Okay.
A client comes up to you and they want to build muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not going to go and tell them to lift that 100 kg of weight which is lying over there. You're going to build them up. You're going to stretch them. Yeah. So you're expanding their comfort zone. You're not telling them to get out of their comfort zone. What you're taking is stretching them. Now, depending on the client, for some it could take 1 week, some 2 weeks, some 1 month, some 3 months, some a whole year. Everyone works in a different way. So when people say things like, get out of your comfort zone, that is not being mindful at all.
Yeah.
You need to be able to help people stretch.
Actually, this is true. It's down to communication. If your client tells you where they're at now and what they think they're capable of, you can push them a little bit more, but I think you can't be too pushy as well. You need to actually have compassion for where they're at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A time can come in when a customer one of your clients comes over there and he or she is not in the mood of actually doing anything. Now your role changes slightly where, okay, what can they do today?
Exactly. Sometimes it can be if they've not slept well, if they've had a disagreement, then even workouts can be adapted. So we have to communicate in our field as well.
Absolutely.
To understand that day, what's the maximum we can do today? Because anything beyond that can actually
damage them.
That'd be damaging the other way.
So again, now you're being mindful of how you're not saying anything, but you're mindful of their senses, of their emotions.
Yeah.
And this is all a part of being mindful with your communication. So your awareness is amplified for yourself and your surrounding.
Yeah, I would agree. I also noticed something really interesting about your profile. You're coaching a lot of people, C-level executives, a lot of companies, multinational companies. So another theme is, I'm really trying to get important information out to very ambitious women who want to succeed. So why is it you think that all these ambitious people that you're working with, why do they want to upskill in communication?
That's a very good question. Your other questions were good as well, but this is a very, this is something which I see people who are highly aware that how communication has allowed them to progress further.
Yeah.
I'm working with a client who is an MD, was an MD for one of the big banks over here, international bank, investment bank. And he approached me, this was a number of years ago, he approached me and he's a charmer. He is amazing with the voice, his body language is just outstanding. The way he connects you with you is like, wow. I met him up and I was noticing all this about him and I asked him, I'm not sure why you need my services.
Yeah.
He looks at me, he says, come closer. I get closer, he goes to me. Right, I fumble during meetings. I said, what do you mean? He said, people are not aware of it, but I can sense it, and that is affecting my performance.
Okay.
Now, the only reason he's able to do it because of a certain self-awareness that just because you're in a leadership position or you're at a certain level or you've got some kind of certification, there is ongoing development required. So you're in the health field. Tell me something, being in this health field, did you first join, the first day you came into the health field, you were a professional, you were an expert?
Absolutely not. I mean, it comes from learning, continued learning, experience. So, but most important is you can't forget to learn because you never know it all. And you have to actually dedicate to upskilling. You have to.
So same over here. So people are dedicated to certain parts because they realize, these senior people realize communication is the key and it needs to develop as you keep on going on.
Yeah.
They may not have that realization at a certain point, but it starts building up through their career.
Yeah.
Now, some of them say, okay, I want to be really good in front of the camera.
Yeah.
Great, let's see how we can do that. Okay, they want to be really great while they're in meetings. Okay, let's see how we can do that. They want to be great in just general meetings itself, or they want to stand up and speak in public with great confidence, show their gravitas, show that they have presence. They're doing that because they sense that something is amiss. They don't require scientific reason for it. They see it in the reaction of the people which they're dealing with. Especially when they're communicating something and they realize, I was meant to communicate X, but my team or the people or my next in line is hearing Z. Why isn't that person hearing X? So they are aware that this is an ongoing journey. It just doesn't stop. Yeah. Now that same client has come back to me last year. We started in 2016, we did that for a whole 1 year, we stopped, and last year he came back to me and said, I need you to do some more work with me. I'm dealing with different people now. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm dealing with panel interviews now. I'm going on to media. Okay, great. Let's see what we can do. What is that you require? And so we go through the whole process of where you are, where do you want to go, and then we fill in the gaps. And the beauty is, everyone has their own unique way of communicating. Look, you're speaking English, I'm speaking English. But how you're translating it or perceiving that message is going to be very different to someone over there.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? So you have to find a person's unique style to do it. And that's why people come to me for that coaching, is help them, polish their unique style. That's what the focus is.
And I like that what you said also relates to fitness, for example. Like once you've mastered one thing, then, it's time, like, I'm good at this, or I'm getting good at this, or this is something I do, then you move on. So, yeah, I totally get that. I think being ambitious is all about progression and admitting that you don't know everything as well, and continued improvement, I would say.
Absolutely right, absolutely right.
So I know that you said it's obviously communication can be very personal to one person, but what I really want to do today for people that have tuned in is to give them something that they can take away. So have you got some tips, for example, 3 tips that people can apply to everyday life so they can thrive, have better communications, better relationships?
You're not asking for a lot, are you?
Only 3, and it's not even for me.
Okay.
It's for other people.
So let's look at this. There's what I've learned about mindfulness is your breath is the anchor to your mind.
Okay.
Now what that means is you're in a situation, you're talking to someone and you're getting flustered and you're getting angry and you can't explain what's going on. This could be with someone who's listening out there with their spouse. It could be with their brother. It could be with the customer service. It could be even with your personal trainer, whoever it could be. Or it could be a personal trainer. My client just doesn't listen to me. Yeah? So here's a simple thing which you need to do is focus on your breath.
Okay, yeah.
You just breathe in and you breathe out.
This is so fitness as well. So I love how it's all linked up without me even knowing.
It's all about the breath.
Yeah.
When we are out of control, when our thoughts are not mindful, when our emotions are not mindful, when our communication is not mindful, notice your breath is all over the place. It's either too fast, okay, or it's too rigid. There's no flow in it. So you just literally what you say is you focus. You say to yourself, I'm focusing on my breath. Just the breath coming into the nose over here, just at the nostrils over there. That's one thing. Just focus on that. Breathe in, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. And you can do it in a slow format, but you do it in your mind. If you're with a client, obviously you can't say, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, I'm breathing out. But when you're on your own, you can do that. And the slower you do it, the better. Because it helps you calm down, it helps you get grounded. So that's one thing, is the breath is very, very important. The second thing is what I call is your scale of wholesome to unwholesome. Whenever you have a thought, whenever you have an emotion, or when you've spoken to someone, just go back and create a scale. Let's say wholesome is 10 and unwholesome is 0. I had a conversation with Caroline. In that conversation, as an overall, was the conversation towards wholesome or unwholesome?
You're welcome to rate afterwards.
Now what you can do is you can go further deeper into it. Okay, one particular part, let me look at, let's say we spoke about mindfulness.
Yeah. Was
my conversation about mindfulness with Caroline more towards wholesome or more towards unwholesome? Yeah. Now our aim is to move towards wholesome. Now what that makes you do is makes you aware how you need to deal next time you're in a conversation, or increases or amplifies your senses to say, how do I move myself towards being wholesome? Because when you're wholesome, you're there to help the other person, you're there to serve the other person, you're there to support the other person. Unwholesome is when it's all about me. The I. And in the health industry, or the people who do help other people, there might be a transaction involved, but at the end of the day, you want your clients to get a result. You want them to be in a wholesome manner, not in the unwholesome manner. Yeah. So that's always, you have to see every conversation you've had, was it more wholesome or unwholesome? So you can literally have a scale, 10 to 0, and say, where was I on this scale? If I'm moving more towards the 4 and the 5, I need to learn to shift to the other side.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you can do.
Yeah.
So that's 2. So one was breath, second was unwholesome or wholesome. The third thing which I recommend is when we are in a conversation, when we're communicating, and this is something which you'll see a lot of leaders do that, but they've been told that you do it because you're showing a sense of confidence, a sense of, control. I'm doing it at the moment. If you look at my palms, they're like this. So if you were to do your palms like this...
Is this more confident than this, for example?
Yeah. So if you were to do that, just the fingertips like this.
Yeah.
And just leave them calmly. Now, what's literally happening now at this moment in time is your left and your right brain, your logic and your creative are now talking to each other. They are in sync with each other. Okay. So
not like this then?
Yeah.
Wow.
Would recommend
but
it
that
to
feels
do that.
comfortable. I like that one.
So it's also when you do that, you start gripping yourself. While this, it's more relaxed. Okay, so with this way, left and the right, they're talking to each other. Here's another thing which is happening. The heart and the brain are now in sync with each other.
Wow.
So emotions and your brain, your heart and your brain are in connect with each other. And this helps you feel grounded. It actually helps you amplify your mindfulness in any given situation. So let's say you've got your client and you're getting them to do some exercise. While you're standing over there, put your hands over there like this and just look at them and encourage them.
Yeah.
It's a very, very simple, straightforward method to do it. Children are very good at this. They do it from a very young age, and we all used to do it at one time, but something happened in the way where we've got to do it. Notice, if you ever notice children next time, is when they're especially watching television, usually their hands will just go like this, and they're just like...
Okay, I will start to take notice,
So you've got your breath, wholesome or unwholesome, and physically, just physically looking at how your hands are, especially when you're feeling you need to get grounded, you need to stay focused, you need to be in a state of confidence, so other people can see that confidence. It's a very simple thing.
It's quite calming, actually. I like it. I've already adopted it.
And that's the whole point
of it.
It is,
actually, yeah.
Now, women pick it up much quicker than men, apparently.
Yeah.
They have and this is no bias against a woman or a man, but what I've noticed is through my sessions, which I've done across so many people, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of people, I've noticed women, like you've said, I feel a sense of calm.
It does,
they pick it up much quicker. What also women start feeling is the pulse of the heartbeat on each fingertip. And this may not happen to you now. If you try it a couple of times, you will start feeling it.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit, I can. Yeah.
So literally, you are now aligned. That's all this is doing. So if you want to be mindful with your communication, your breath, wholesome, move towards from unwholesome to wholesome, and have this connection of the brain and the heart. And that's what allows you to stay in a state of mindful communication.
Amazing. I'm going to rate that as wholesome number 10.
Thank you so much.
Because I've learned a lot. And I think this is really invaluable information. So I know I asked you some big questions, but you answered them amazingly. I've got the information that I wanted, and I hope it was just as valuable to anyone else who's joining us.
My pleasure. Good luck to you. Good luck to your listeners. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.